to it. Good to see you. I almost called you this morning. Do you know this character? Hi, I'm Norm Bear. Nice to meet you. I live in Meridian, but I work with this guy, so. Really, I'm surprised. You haven't worked with anybody else.
Yes, so Kate is the model. She will be stage.
Right, to watch in the returns.
Well, well, immediately after I was to the yeah, sure. So no, all you have to do is give them a call. Just say you want to be there.
these small pieces. You guys enjoy it.
Oh, Joaquin. That doesn't mean touch it. Oh yeah, we've been serving for about a half hour.
You've got a mouthful there, Chuck. How are you? Good to see you. Glad to be here. Absolutely. Yesterday was perfect. Nice to see you again, especially 2 days in a row. How are you, sir? I know.
She tells me I'm very nice meeting you. Just tell a couple jokes.
Oh, the word is out.
Still struggling with noise.
just still there. Very interesting story. But it takes about 10 minutes to tell you the whole thing. Yeah, it ended up with C-Slacks. He bought it. Now it goes. It's pretty sad. Fly over because it was really good. It's just sitting there. Weeds growing up through it in the buildings. It's really nice buildings. Yeah, they're all there. The bars, the corrals are all. The houses are all still. We used to have a caretaker for a second. Oh, it's sad. I still like to see it. There's a lot of history there. A couple generations. Well, I mean, so my dad's side is from Vail, Meridian, and Watson is his town. It's like a reservoir now. So when they made Hawaii reservoir back then, Watson was great. So when the water came up and flooded, they all went. My mom was actually great grandmother was secretary. I was St. Luke's downtown place. Sorry. Tell him. Don't write too much down.
Good afternoon. How's everyone doing today? Excellent. Well, thank you so much for being here. On behalf of the Meridian Chamber of Commerce, we're certainly pleased that you are here with us today, and we're happy that all of our candidates are able to join us and participate. So I just have a couple housekeeping items I want to go over first. The first thing is our gala. I don't know if you guys know this, but we are having a gala. It's on November 7th, and we have some limited sponsorships left for that. And if you would like to reach out to Lindsay, she can help you with that. And believe it or not, we kind of set a goal. We've already exceeded the amount of people we had there last year, so we're well over 200. And we're going for 350 now, so we need all you there, okay? We're going to have some great auction items, again, some cool trips and all that good stuff, and we've got a great MC. If you remember the gentleman that came last year, the speaker, Coach V, he's going to be our MC. And then we have Jeff Sayer, he formerly was the secretary there with the Department of Commerce, and he will be there speaking for us. So that's what we got going there. There's another thing coming up on November 5th. It's an election. I'm supposed to remind you to be there for that, in case you guys didn't know that's happening. That's on a Tuesday. And then the last thing is, we've got an announcement. Rich, our CEO, is moving to Texas. He is leaving us. This is his last week. So I want you all to make sure you give him a big hug goodbye, because he is leaving us. We do have an ongoing search for a new CEO right now, but Rich has done an extremely awesome job. We appreciate everything. Thank you, Rich. I promised him I wouldn't cry. Okay. Now, I get to introduce Kate. So Kate reports on growth and development for the Idaho Statesman. Thanks for making the type so small on this, by the way. Okay. She moved to Idaho in 2018 from Louisville, Kentucky. Did I say Louisville right? Louisville. Okay. All right. These people. Where she was a reporter at the Louisville Courier-Journal. She holds a degree in urban studies from Brown University. She uses her planning background to write about topics like traffic, real estate development, and growth. Since joining the Statesman in October 2018, she has also reported on our region's previous efforts at managing growth and what solutions exist today that could preserve the quality of life in the Treasure Valley. She has been a huge advocate for the city of Meridian and the Meridian Chamber. Please welcome Kate.
As Jeffrey said, my name is Kate Tallarico. This is actually my 1-year anniversary with the Statesman today, so that's pretty cool. Thank you. In that year, I've gotten to know a few of you in this room pretty well, and a few of you less well because you're scared to pick up the phone for a reporter, but that's fine. So I'm really excited to be here today and to moderate this forum. I want to get the candidates up on stage here, if I can. So I'll ask you to join me. So a few ground rules here. We are going to give each candidate 2 minutes to answer each question. Rich over here, he's going to have a card, yellow card. That means you have 30 seconds left to answer the question. Red card, 10 seconds. So please do pay attention to the cards. I don't want to have to cut you off, but I will. Some other ground rules. I'm also going to try to start with a new person each time. I'll give you, can you guys hear me? Yeah. So I'll try to start with a new person each time so that I'm not putting the same person on the spot constantly. And finally, we also have some index cards on your table. So if you want to write down your questions, we'll have people from the chamber who are picking up those index cards. If you just raise your hand, and we'll try to get to those questions at the end here. So to start off, I want to have each of you just give an opening statement, tell us a little bit about who you are and how you got here, why you're running for mayor of Meridian. So let's start with you, Ann.
Well, first of all, thank you. It is an honor to be here. As most of you know, I was with the Chamber for over 6 years, and so it feels so wonderful to be back.
and so wonderful to have this space redone. For those of you that have been around for a while and know how much we love this space, but it wasn't always acoustically so wonderful. So this is a thrill for me to be back and have such a great space. So, Ann Little Roberts, I grew up about 45 miles from here. My husband Doug and I strategically picked Meridian about 23 years ago. Been married 28 years, have one son, Nick, that is busy golfing in Phoenix. And I love Meridian. That's probably the biggest reason that I wanted to run for mayor. And we've done a lot of things right. Our growth proves that, but I think we can tweak some things. And so I just really have a passion for Meridian and want to see us continue to do well.
Thank you. My name is Joe Palmer. I've grew up within probably a 10 or 12 mile radius of right here. My whole life is here. My children are here, my 4 kids, my 7 grandkids, my business. Everything about my life has to do with Meridian, and I love it here, and that's the reason that I want to run for mayor. I think most things are going well. I have no complaints about what City Council and the mayor has done over the past few years. They've had their hands full. I think probably being on City Council is one of the toughest jobs I've ever seen. Dealing with this growth is definitely trying. I've worked in the legislature for the last 8 years, mostly with transportation issues, and it seems to be the biggest question right now is how we're going to deal with transportation. And that's what I would center most of my attention to, is working on that for now. I think it's a pretty important aspect, and the people that are complaining about growth, if they have an answer to the transportation issue, it seems to be able to soften that a little bit. So I'm thankful for the opportunity to stand before you and talk about things that deal with Meridian and the people here. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Sean Wardle, and I'm running to be the mayor of my hometown right here in Meridian. I learned to swim at the community pool just down the street from here. My parents would take me there every summer. It was very important to them that we learned to swim, and I learned to swim well, even made junior lifeguard. Now, my dad is a big, strong guy. And when you're a little kid, he's a giant. And I couldn't imagine him being afraid of anything. But I started to notice something. He was nervous around big bodies of water. See, he'd never learned to swim as a kid. But he made sure that I would never have that fear and that I was a great swimmer. And that's the story of my family. Get better every generation. You see, my grandfather was a union welder, and his grandfather was a construction worker, ran a D9 cap, Highway 55 and the dams. And my family built a business here in Meridian, the Idaho Athletic Club, and I was fortunate enough to join that organization and help grow it. Building for generations. And I want to take those skills, those business skills, and bring them to the city, because Meridian needs a CEO. And I will ensure, just as my family has, that this community remains a great place for the next generation.
Can you guys hear me all right? Okay, my name is Gina. I'm new, you probably don't know me, and that's the whole point. I'm running to be mayor of Meridian because I was asked to run by many folks that I do and do not know. I wanted to serve, and they asked me to serve, and they know that I'm honest, not just about my communication abilities, but how I have a unique attitude that redefines political character. They wanted someone who wouldn't put pride or ego or experience regardless of party, and wished for someone to be in office that would change how politics happened. Basically, I'm a little guy who is going to represent the little guy at the big league tables. I don't have to have experience, I don't have to have an education. All I gotta do is be a megaphone and let the little guy use me. That's what the American government was supposed to be. And I think we've lost that path. So I know that I most likely would lose, but regardless of the outcome, I'm here to inspire. Here to inspire to get people to get along, to get people to get out and not just vote, but run. My millennial generation are rebels. You guys know it. Everybody's afraid of what we're going to do. Well, what if we got along before they came in power? I want to be that mediator, that bridge, and I'm answering the call to serve because I can't serve the military due to my medical diagnoses, but I'm a testament to all the programs that have been in place. I have the life experience, and that, I think, is the best thing I can bring to the table. Thank you.
My name's Robert Simpson, and I'm running because I care about this community. I've been serving for the last 12 years as the mayor's chief of staff, but more importantly, I care about this community because I'm raising my family in this community. I've got a son who's right across on the other side of this wall right here at Renaissance, and a daughter at Victory, and another son who just turned 9 yesterday at Sienna. I care about the whole of the community in terms of how we need to grow, how we need to thrive, and how we need to prosper. So I care about having a premier community that's safe and built for our families. We need to make sure that we can get from point A to point B easier in our community. That is most definitely something. But as a city, our primary focus is on the services that we provide. Our primary core services is public safety, police and fire, parks, water, sewer, community development, and the other departments that support them. So as Sean mentioned, you are hiring a CEO to be in charge of a company that has over 500 employees, 9 different divisions, has responsibilities for budget, policy, direction, and then someone else that the community can come to whenever they need someone to show up to go to their community event, be present, lead, walk with kids at school, all of that. I know what the job is, I know what the job is not, and I have the relationships with many people in this room, throughout the valley, throughout the state, that I think I can continue to build on our premier vision to be for that community that I support and have helped been a part of creating.
Thank you all. So our first question is about traffic and transportation. As mayor, what do you see as the top priorities around transportation? And how would you work across different agencies, such as the Ada County Highway District, Compass, and the Idaho Transportation Department, to make sure that Meridian's highest transportation priorities are funded? Let's start with Joe Palmer on this one.
Thank you. Transportation is obviously the most important thing right now to people in Meridian. It's a huge problem. One of the most important things is collaboration between the cities and those transportation organizations that you need to work with. You need to be able to work with ITD and with ACHD. ACHD has the majority of the roads that are inside of Meridian, and so the relationship between ACHD and the city of Meridian needs to be at its best. Everyone has seen times when there is, we'll say, a little bit of stress between ACHD and some of the cities that they work with. That is not a good way to get the roads done that you need to get done. The best way is to work with them. Now, I think one of the opportunities that we have is when ACHD gets they get a certain amount of money from the state to spend on roads. A portion of that has to be spent in Meridian. Doesn't have to be spent, but almost has to be spent. The way that's written is a little bit tricky. But so they'll come to the city of Meridian, they'll say, what's your wish list? The wish list is this, and then they go back and the board's going to decide what they're going to do with that money. They want to build roads, they want to make their dollars go as far as possible. The important part is to partner with them and use money from the city to get roads built. It happened on Locust Grove, the overpass. I think it can happen in other places. We need to get an overpass at Linder Road. I think we can get that done in short order. They need to understand that we want to partner with them and not butt heads with them. ACHD is one of a kind. There's not another organization like it in the entire United States. I mean, people are usually surprised to hear that. We have 250, 260 highway districts across the state of Idaho. They're all organized differently. And ACHD is one by itself, the whole United States. So we need to work with them. And their system actually works pretty good as long as you work with them and not against them.
Let's move on to Sean Wardle.
I didn't see where the time's at.
It's right there.
I'll pay more attention.
Thank you. Talk is about traffic. And I believe that we need to start talking about traffic and stop talking about transportation. Meridian is a suburban environment. We need wider roads and signalized intersections. And until Black Cat and U-Stick is no longer a four-way stop, let's quit talking about a train. Now, how do we achieve that? The valley's traffic goes to and through Meridian. And so we not only have our own traffic issues to deal with, but everyone else's. And I believe that Meridian deserves more than just its fair share of an equal pie in the transportation dollars. And Meridian has stepped up in my involvement with the city right here on Locust Grove and contributed $1 million toward that project to move it up. Now, that happened for a couple of reasons. One was traffic, but one that's more important was public safety. Our public safety officials, our police officers here at the station, the fire department, were concerned that they couldn't get to accidents, especially on the freeway, without that overpass. And so that rose to the level to utilize city dollars. I believe that that's an example of things that we can do in the future.
You may not know, but I don't drive, and I do it by choice. I could easily get a permit to drive, but can you tell me if I'm wrong that the roads are getting more dangerous? There's a lot more situations out there that are becoming distracted drivers. We have construction year-round, and yet we have more accidents because not just for the people here and out of state and the people transitioning in and out of our state, but we need to focus on how we address projects. Sean says we should do widening projects, and has anyone thought of the people in those homes that are on the roads that are going to be widened? You're cutting off their front lawn. I don't think they just moved in there for you to just do that. And that's why I think we need to take care, and instead of widening roads and just replacing or repaving, we need to look at how transportation is being used in the first place. Like Sean said and like Joe said, we are having lots of people driving. What if we got more people involved in the public transportation? Well, what public transportation would you say? Exactly. I want one. Do you? Well, we can't get one unless we work together. The city leaders and just the region leaders want to have a Valley Regional Transit System. The 2021 date that was just recently put out there is too far ahead. We need to do something now in the next 6 months. And I propose using some of the funds that were raised, the $400,000 that was just recently raised, to maybe do something different. So I hope that, regardless of my experience, I can at least bring some new ideas to addressing the road and transportation issues.
So transportation does start with collaboration. Joe is 100% correct on that. You got to have relationships with ACHD and ITD. But when there's no money to go around, it's great to talk about it. But how do you solve it when they're underfunding the road needs at the state level and, quite frankly, at the county level from the decisions that ACHD has been making in terms of what monies they take for projects? So we have to be a little bit more innovative if we're going to be successful in addressing as much of the traffic issue that we can, because 60 to 70% of all the cars you see driving around in Meridian at any point in time of the day aren't from people that live in Meridian. Now, that can be people that are coming to jobs here, that can be people that are passing through on their way to Boise, but we are handling the entire valley's traffic. So how can we be more innovative in what we do? Well, back in 2005, 2006, we worked with the development community in North Meridian to come up with a plan to see improvements done ahead of schedule where the developers would be repaid back by ACHD. We need to take that same approach and look at South Meridian and other parts of the community to try to get additional road projects done sooner. In addition, I believe the city has about $20 million in unobligated funds that are being saved for our capital improvement plan projects in the future. We should look at those funds and invest those in road priorities and do the exact same thing that developers can do. Go and do a road project, work with ACHD and have ACHD pay us back. So long as it doesn't impact our primary core things that we need to do as a city in terms of police, fire, and other things, let's use our money wisely that we have today, not just let it gain 0.5% of interest as we see road construction projects 25-30% increase year over year, because eventually we're all going to pay for those road improvement projects one way or the other, whether it's the state tax money, whether it's ACHD tax money. So let's invest in what we can here in our community.
Thank you. We absolutely have to be in collaboration with those that have the most authority over our roads, Ada County Highway District and ITD. It is critical to be at the table with them, but the old saying is you can't asphalt your way out of congestion. We definitely need improvements to our roads, but we've got to be looking at not only the whole picture, but what's down the road 20, 30, 50 years from now. And we've got to be looking at a viable way for public transportation. And that's where we all need to be working together to see what that looks like and how it best serves our citizens. We've got to be at the table regarding what impacts us the most now. Right now, we've got one of the next big projects is Locust Grove South. But as I was looking at that, we don't have anything on the books regarding the intersection of Eagle Road and Overland. But yet, a lot of that traffic coming up Locust Grove will be funneled to Eagle Road to get on the freeway. But yet, there's nothing in the books for that intersection. So we've got to be working very strategically to making sure to partner with those organizations so that that money is used most wisely so that our citizens benefit the most as we're all working on those projects together.
Well, something that was just brought up was public transportation. Meridian has allocated $400,000 in its most recent budget to go towards a bus route that would go between 10 Mile Interchange, downtown, and the village. My question to you all is, as mayor, do you feel that the city should increase its investment in public transportation, or should it remain just that $400,000? Let's start with you, Sean.
Thank you. And if you were at the city budget hearing, you know that the mayor and the city council raised taxes to make that $400,000 investment, and I disagree with that. And I disagree with additionally funding empty buses within the community. If that investment was meant for people to get to and from a place because they didn't have a car, let's be innovative, let's be creative. Could we have better spent that money and had thousands of Uber or Lyft or whatever rides that are already being managed through VRT? That's what I believe.
As I mentioned before, I don't drive. I really, really would like to use public transportation, but in Meridian, there is really no existing line. Even before there was the county crossing one, you either had to have a car that go to a parking lot in order to get on the ride, or you had to walk at least 5 to 10 miles before you can find your first stop. Sean also puts out that we use Uber and Lyft as a possible solution. My dad is an Uber driver, and you know what? $400,000 will be used up in 2 weeks. It's not going to last very long. Otherwise, I would be using it. But, that's not a sustainable solution. So we need to look at getting the people into alternative modes. We have those ACHD commuter vans always on the parking lot the majority of the day. Why are we not using them if they're available to us? I think we need to put them on the same route as the one that is proposed for 2021 and see how that works. It's not going to be accessible for everybody, but at least we can experiment between now and 2021. Using that $400,000 to fund that was a lot more efficient, and at least we can prototype to see if the Valley Regional Transit route is actually going to be used. If it's not, we should do something different. And just like anything, it comes at a risk. We make mistakes, but we also have to prototype new ideas. We can keep thinking about things and how to address them, or we can finally start acting and just see what works. We don't necessarily have to plan for the future, but Compass is there to help us. They helped us plan. Now it's time to act.
So public transportation, Meridian, is a difficult conversation to have because as a city, we don't receive any dollars for transportation. The state doesn't fund anything for public transportation. I think we're one of 2 states in the country that receive no state funding for public transportation. And then as is mentioned, ACHD gets all of our transportation dollars. So anything the city does in terms of public transportation, it is in direct competition with what we may need for our police, our fire, our parks, public works. So anything we do needs to take its time. We cannot make large investments because we also have other investments throughout the city that we need to make. In terms of this specific route, I've been challenged when I look at this route to say, is this route a good route? And I think right now the answer is probably not. You know, just from the standpoint of we're going essentially from one large parking lot at 10 Mile to one large parking lot down at the Village with stops along the way. But if we don't make that investment and create a route, then no one's going to know where public transportation exists. And those that want to use it will now know where that investment will be, and they can move to those areas if they want to take public transportation. In our comprehensive plan, we've really looked at where public transportation makes sense. And that's looking at areas where we have planned for higher density, which is along Franklin and Overland roads. So as those roads continue to see more density get built along them, then more investment in public transportation will likely need to take place in those areas. The last thing I'll say about public transportation is I also think that we're at a point in time in our development as a society with autonomous vehicles that we don't really know the impact that they're going to have on our commuting in and around the communities over the next decade. And I think there's some opportunities there that we should keep our eyes on as a possible future for public transportation.
My turn, I guess. You know, it's hard to know at this point if that's the right amount of money because we aren't in a situation where we have a successful bus system to invest in. But we've got to start somewhere because the need for public transportation, especially affordable public transportation, is growing on a regular basis. And we know we've got to have alternatives other than just getting in our cars, single drivers, and getting to wherever we need to go. So this was very strategically done, and we included conversations with companies like Sensi and Blue Cross, and how do we help people that go to the same place on a regular basis get there without being a single driver in their car. Is it the answer to everything at this point? We don't know, but we've got to start trying to do things differently in order to eventually get there. And it's a great start. We may need to put forward less money. It'd be great if we could figure out how to get some from the federal government and figure out a better way to fund it, or if it can someday be self-funded. But self-funding is not what transportation does. We pay for the roads. We need to be paying for the bus system or some other form of transit as we look forward 30, 40, 50 years down the road.
All right, let's go to Joe.
Thank you. The fact is, public transportation is not utilized enough to pay for, even close to pay for itself. We have a bus system in downtown Boise that has subsidized every single rider $330 per month. That doesn't calculate out. Until people are going to use those systems, there's no sense in moving forward with that. If you look at Ada County Highway District, they actually run the commuter ride system and they add routes on as they have people that use them. And that system works pretty good. As soon as they're filled up, they put a van together, and the people that are riding on the van are not paid drivers. They're someone that is part of the van system. So it actually works pretty good. If you're going to be looking at something, you should be looking at the least expensive with the highest ridership, and right now, buses are not cutting it.
All right, let's move on to our next question. Meridian is close to finalizing its comprehensive plan, which provides an outline for the city's growth for the next 20 years. Creating the comprehensive plan, the city has gotten feedback from hundreds of residents. As mayor, what plans do you have to increase community engagement and resident feedback on city decisions? We can start with Gina on this one.
Just give me one moment, because I came prepared this time, so, okay, maybe not. Comprehensive plan, we have had a great task at making sure that we have one. We need one, but The only difference between me and my fellow candidates is I wasn't part of the creation. I could have easily created feedback, but many of the members of the public don't necessarily agree with the plan. And I can bring something different to the table because I wasn't part of the creation of the plan and I didn't submit feedback, excuse me, I don't need to follow the agenda, but that doesn't mean I won't. I just think that even like all plans, life never goes according to plan. And we need to be prepared to adjust and make sure we stay on track as much as possible, but also take into account future situations. As being the megaphone for the little guy, I can be not only the voice that they need in power, but I can also create solutions that many people don't seem to address. I'm an out-of-the-box thinker. Some of the impossible ideas I have come up with have worked, even though it sounded nuts. In my 4-year term, if I was elected, I would do something different. I would create prototype solutions. And at the end of that 4-year term, if people liked them, they can keep them. I don't mind. I'm not running for a re-election. I'm here to prototype millennial ideas. If you don't like them and you don't want them, I'm fine leaving the office in the other hands. And that's why, if I am elected, I would like to have the original people who created the plan on a committee who can help me advise on how to proceed in different scenarios.
Thank you. So just to reiterate, I use the comprehensive plan as an example of getting community engagement, and the question is about how you would seek out community feedback on projects. So just moving forward.
No worries.
So community engagement, that's something that's in our current strategic plan and something that has actually been assigned to me in my role with the city. So over the last several years, we've been looking at how we can get greater engagement from the community and the things we can do. Some of the things that we've focused on are Nextdoor, posting our public hearing notices on Nextdoor so people are more informed. We've also more recently started asking people survey questions on Nextdoor to get their feedback. It's just a data point, but at least it provides additional information and it gives people an opportunity as a way to engage the city in the conversations that we are having. We've done things such as making our city council meetings and commission meetings streaming, but there's more that we can do in that area. We are trying to make it so that people can log on from home and testify. There's some technological issues that we had to work through, so that's been on the back burner. But those are the types of innovative things that we need to be doing to get the community more engaged. But one of the biggest things I think we need to do is actually ask our residents and empower them to help make decisions about their community. I'm a big proponent of putting things on the ballot for the residents to weigh in. I've been talking to our Ada County clerk because of the issues over in Boise where they said that cities aren't allowed to do advisory votes. I'd like to work with him to get that changed in the legislature so that we have the same ability to advisory votes the way the county does, so we can at least ask our residents to empower them to give more direct feedback to our city council on issues that are before them. But even above and beyond that, I think that we should put things on the ballot for them to make decisions. And once elected, one of the things I'd like to add to the ballot to engage the residents on is, should our city council members be elected by district or not? That's a question that we should put on the ballot and let our citizens engage directly with us and determine how they want to be governed as a community.
I think that's a great question because I think that it is absolutely critical that the citizen voice is heard. And Meridian does a lot of really great stuff right now. We have quarterly town halls. We have coffee with a mayor once a quarter. But I think that we can enhance that along with what we're doing on social media, which who knows what will be the next wonderful thing like Nextdoor. We had the privilege of being one of the test markets for it. So it is a very robust social media platform that if you're not on Nextdoor, I strongly recommend it. But I think we can also add some other things, such as NAMPA has an open opportunity once a month where the mayor's in her office in the evenings and people can come by and have 10, 15 minutes and just chat, and same with potentially doing a Saturday, one Saturday a month, have a few hours open where the public can just come by and have the opportunity to chat with the mayor herself.
I'm just going to let it go. Just to be
Had to do
nice.
that.
You know what? I agree with everything that you've just heard. It's so important to have community involvement. As we have went through this ordeal of going around and meeting people and putting ourselves out in front of things, I've talked to so many people. They come up to me and they say, how are you going to stop this growth? How are you going to stop these apartments from being in my backyard? And I'm like, were you at the meeting when they planned the comprehensive plan? It doesn't really get me a very good vote when I approach them like that. But the fact is, it's the truth. People are not being involved as much as they should, and they need to be. The problem with our society here, we all have it pretty good in Meridian. Meridian's a great place. We all make a decent income, and things are comfortable. And you don't pay a lot of attention to government when you're comfortable because you just want to take care of your family and your business or whatever it is, right up until government comes up and bites you. That's what happened to me. And that's what will happen to people if they don't pay attention. And I don't have the one-all answer for getting more community involvement. I can say that City Hall needs to be open all the time. I don't mean open 24 hours a day. I mean open to people, receptive to people. An open-door policy is absolutely important. Saturdays, I think that's a great idea. People need to realize that their government works for them and not against them. So when they come in, they're greeted with someone who they are now talking to the customer, and they need to be taken care of. And I think people will get more comfortable with being a part of their government as long as you can get out in front of them and get that. And I think the city's doing a really good job so far in getting that. I think we need to keep continuing on down that road. Thanks.
Thank you. Community engagement. I grew up here. I still shop at the same grocery store that my parents did. I go to restaurants, and I engage with our community. And as a business person, I like to speak with my customers and get their opinions. And I've got a new business, D1 Training here in Meridian, Idaho. I've got some team members here, Tanner and Amy and my business partner Doug in the back. Come try us out if you haven't yet. I also do a couple things as a public official to make sure that people can get a hold of me. I still have a home phone, and you can call it. And if I'm not there, I'll get back with you. But one of the things that I think is important for our community is transparency. Because when people don't feel like government is transparent, and I've had that feeling with our city here lately, but they don't feel like they can be heard or they get all of the information that they need. And so my administration will create the first office of government accountability so that people have not only a place to go to get answers, but to find out what's going on.
All right, and speaking of community feedback, I will also use this as a chance to advertise that there are cards on your desk, on your tables. Please fill them out if you have questions, and we'll try to get them answered. All right, next question. Meridian was once known only as a bedroom community for Boise. Under Mayor Tammy DeWeerd, the city has recruited a number of companies, including Velocity and Meridian, yet still about half of Meridian residents commute to Boise for their job, and 20% are employed here in Meridian. How would you work to recruit further employers to locate here in the city? And let's start with Robert.
Well, I think we've done a great job in what we have done to this point in time. In fact, the numbers show that we have more jobs in Meridian, or more jobs in Meridian than workers that live here. So yes, we do still see people moving through from the community to other communities to get to the jobs that they want to have. So we need to grow more of what they want to have here. Because the more trips we can get off the road, the more we can be a live-work community. The better it is for our roads, the better it is for our families, so we can spend time with one another, and that needs to be our focus. So how do we do that? Well, it starts by collaboration with our business community. We have to be locking arms with the chambers, with the Boise Valley Economic Partnership, with the Department of Commerce, to find those right businesses that may want to locate here, or to find the businesses that are already here that need an opportunity to grow. What we've seen in Meridian, just use Meridian as the example, is we had a company that was here in Meridian that was located up in Silverstone, taking up a couple of different buildings, looking for a way to stay in our community. Luckily, we had what was occurring out of 10 Mile, where they were able to relocate to that area, and they've been able to grow and thrive and remain in our community, and they're still doing that. They need another building to continue to grow and thrive. So working with our local businesses is a way to help ensure that we have more jobs in Meridian for the people that are choosing to call us home. So we need to make sure that we capitalize on our central location in the valley. 10 Mile is just one location that is where we're seeing that type of growth, but downtown is another location that has that opportunity, as well as Eagle Road. All three of our interchanges right now are job centers for the valley. We continue to work with the people in those areas, and we will continue to see the growth in the cluster industries that we're seeing success in, and we need to build upon what we've seen with ICOM and ISU Meridian in terms of be more in that healthcare tech area.
Good at my job.
Thank you. You know, I think Meridian has done a really wonderful job with strategically attracting larger businesses that are landing out like at 10 Mile. But I think we can enhance our focus and work more collaborative. We have not always been at the table as strongly as we should be with Boise Valley Economic Partnership. And you also look at Boise with 4 or 5 people that market Boise. Nampa, there's 3 or 4. We have 1 in our economic development department. And so I think we need to look at growing our own department as well as strengthening our relationships with those that are out marketing the whole state of Idaho to the rest of the U.S. and focus on those businesses that are complementary to those that are already here. And I think that we can do a really great job of bringing in some more businesses that provide that living wage that we are looking for in order to keep our people focused and working here in Meridian. Thank you.
Meridian is friendly to business if you're a large corporation and have the money to pay lawyers and engineers to get the work done for you. Otherwise, it's not. Small businesses have a tough time. It's not easy for a small business. There's so much regulation and heavy-handed over the top of you trying to move into Meridian that they're not coming here, they're leaving. I have a friend with 40 employees. He's been in Meridian. He's lived in downtown Meridian his entire 52 years of life. He's ran his business here for the last 30. He's looking to leave Meridian because it is so hard to deal with the business in Meridian. He wants to expand. It's impossible for him to expand in Meridian. It's just not friendly. The way to expand businesses for government to get out of their way. As little regulation as possible, light-handed as much as you can. There's always things that happen where you have to have government, but as light as possible is what we need to do. Less regulation.
When I was a kid, the governor of Idaho said that our greatest export was our children. And he was right. When I graduated from college, I had the good fortune to join the family business, but a lot of my friends had to go out of state to find good jobs. Now, today in Meridian, we've done a better job. We've attracted those employers and those living wage employers, but we've got further work to do. And I know how to create private sector jobs. One of the impediments that we have today are the regulations and the bureaucracy that we've created to grow or to expand your existing business. I believe that we need to analyze those and get out of the way. One of the simple examples there is this. If you have an existing building and you want to either grow your business and expand in the space next to you or find a new space, you've got to go through an arduous permitting process. I would suggest that we let our design professionals, architects and engineers, self-certify their work. There's an idea. We've also got to look at what prevents businesses from investing in our community. And one of those things, in my opinion, as a business owner, is the business personal property tax. It should go.
So I'm going to combine this question that was just asked with the one that I obviously didn't answer very well in beforehand. I'm a gamer. Now, that is something not new for many of you, because obviously you see me rounding up kids and youth who love video gaming, but you have to take a second and think about the youth and young adults here in the Valley. They want to do something in the creative industry. There really is no industry here for them to work in. So how do we bring employers here without creating a Silicon Valley or Anaheim version of the Valley? We got to respect the nature and the natural views here, and yet there is an industry that is untapped. There is an industry that many of your kids and grandkids want to get involved with. We can train them at Boise State, but what if they could do it while they're in high school? What if they could do something YouTubing-wise or esports-wise, but they couldn't do it before because no one really gets them? So on the topic of feedback, I plan on working with all these kids and youth to do gaming sessions as a mayor. Because if a mayor understands Call of Duty or Fortnite, I definitely think they're going to be the messenger to get people understanding how they can be happy in the jobs they want to be. We cannot drag employers here, though, if we don't provide access. And so I believe installing a server farm south of Meridian would not just help our infrastructure for internet, but we could have faster speeds so that every business can have a benefit, regardless of the industry they're in.
All right, for this next question, we'll start with Ann Little Roberts. How do you feel, this comes from the audience, how do you feel about the creation of an auditorium district in Meridian?
I think it's a great idea. I was at the chamber when Pegasus did their report that said we had a significant shortage of meeting space in Meridian. But that's also been long enough ago that there is a possibility, because we've had some wonderful meeting space created since then, that I think an updated survey would be the place to start, and I believe the chamber's actually working on that. But along with the updated meter, the increase in meeting space, we've also had significant growth. And I really don't like it when I hear some of our wonderful events and things are forced to go to either Boise or Nampa. It would be wonderful to have them here in our own city. But I think that we've got to do it strategically and make sure that we know what the community is wanting in that space. Is it multi-use? Is it strictly meeting? There's a lot of options with an auditorium district, but I think that that is definitely a place that we need to finish exploring, and if it shows that we need one, I would be fully supportive of it.
Great. Joe Palmer.
Yeah, that would be a hard one to get me to support. It's going to take tax dollars to do that. If it's a good idea, private industry is going to do it. There's people in this room that would put together auditoriums and places to meet, that as long as they're going to make money. If you're not able to make money with it and the taxpayers have to foot the bill, there comes a point when the taxpayers cannot pay for everything that would be nice. So I would have a hard time supporting that at this point.
An auditorium district is a solution in search of a problem. What are we going to build with it? A stadium? A convention center? What kind of taxes are we going to raise? Who are we going to tax? I'm not in favor on raising taxes on businesses to do projects that are undefined and we have no idea what they cost.
Before I announced my candidacy for mayor, I was working on a nonprofit project called the 10 Mile Project. It was something that I wanted to create because I wanted to create a city within a city on the land that is next to 10 Mile Crossing and on the southeast corner of Franklin and 10 Mile. We need to look at doing some type of convention center. Yes, Jump is great if you're in Boise and you need something bigger, you can go to the Ford Idaho Center or maybe Taco Bell Arena. But what about something that has a little bit more flexibility? I would like to propose an auditorium district, but at the same time, cost for building one is going to be too high by the time we have the money. So I propose we do a co-op. Instead of like the grocery co-op, we should do a themed co-op where we have businesses, we have investors, we have companies, both local and out of state, as well as government organizations come together form that task force I was proposing, and we build something, a mixed-use property that has the convention center, has small businesses. And, you know, it's a little bit weird, but I would like to make that the Geek and Gamer co-op, because a lot of people here would love to do something in the comic and industry of the tech industry. And by having a convention center, having apartments, having different opportunities like museums and small stores, that will provide an opportunity for Meridian to have a central location. We don't have to have a stadium, but we do need to have a meeting space that is in Meridian. Otherwise, we're going to different cities for it. And therefore, a co-op will at least provide some help when it comes to financing, because if everybody pitches in, we don't have to worry about the financing on our own.
The nice thing about an auditorium district is it's not funded by taxpayers. It's funded by people that come to your city and stay in your hotels. Almost every person in this room regularly probably funds other places, other cities, whenever you travel, for their convention spaces that you go to, whether you realize it or not. So it's not a property tax from that standpoint. I've been on the committee that's been looking at this issue, and I'm very supportive of asking the voters if we should do it or not. And again, I go back to the point of when we've had a great partner sitting right here, Pat Morandi, with the Roaring Springs Wahoos and the Galaxy Event Center in Penns. Galaxy Event Center has done amazing things for this community already. It's allowed people to have events in our community that used to never be able to be held here. But is that all we're gonna be able to use for the next 50 years in our community? I'm gonna say probably not. You know, we will need additional space. We don't have that defined yet as a committee. That's what you do when you do this analysis. It tells you what are you missing in the community. In addition, what are we missing long term? Graduations. All graduations go to Boise. You know, our kids go to school here, but they can't graduate from here. They got to go someplace else to hold that event. I'm not going to say that we're going to have a facility that we're going to be able to do that, but we need to figure that, ask those questions, and figure out if it makes sense for our community to have that type of thing long term. I mentioned earlier we're the center of the Treasure Valley. What we know about the Boise Convention Center, it's kind of landlocked in downtown. They didn't think long term for their needs. We have an opportunity as the center of the Treasure Valley to think long term, not just for our needs, but the entire valley needs, if we want to be a major place for conventions to come to the Treasure Valley. Auditorium District, yes.
Another question from the audience. This one we'll start with Joe Palmer. If the majority of our citizens support a policy that you oppose, will you follow the will of your citizens or will you remain in opposition? And they gave an example as expanding funding for a more robust public transportation system. I think if I remember correctly, about 70% of people polled by ACHD are in support of a public transportation system. That's just one example.
That's a hard question to ask. It depends on what they're asking me. I will try to go along with the citizens as much as I can, but there's a few rules that I'm not going to break. One's the Constitution. I'm not going to go against the Constitution. And my conscience, I will never go against my conscience. I'm sorry, but constituents have to be third behind those. People know who you are when they're voting for you, and I will support where I can, but there's some places I won't go. If it's an example of public transit and it really is 70% and not 70% of a specific group, well, then you're going to get there, and it may come to a vote. But that question is, you can't completely answer that question one way or the other.
Let's talk about the difference between politics and public service. Politics, we can have opinions, and we can have views and ideas and issues. And that's what we're doing here today, and we appreciate you being here to listen to ours. But let's talk about public service, because that's what I'm here for. And that's why I want to be elected. So that we can serve the citizens in the best possible way and find great ideas and ways to help our community get better. So the question is, if I didn't personally agree with something, Would I continue to implement that as policy? Absolutely. We do that in the private sector all the time. We may not agree with regulations. We may not agree with things that our customers want. But we do them, and we adapt, and we adjust.
As I said, I'm the megaphone, but not really everyone will agree on one idea. So to answer that question, we need to poll people, but we also need to come to an understanding that we all want something. We're not all going to get what we want without a sacrifice each of us has to make. Now, I'm the megaphone if I was elected, and I'm definitely going to agree that everyone has a reason and a response for asking something to happen. But just because you want something to happen doesn't mean that somebody else disagrees. And we need to have an option to have somebody who can see every side, a full plate perspective, and come up with a solution where it's fair. We need to be able to come into a decision where, say, that person who submitted the idea is willing to go with the person who doesn't like it, as long as both have a cost, so that they give up something so that the other guy is happy. We need to consider that residents aren't just the only taxpayers. Business owners, youth, young adults, tourists, anybody who's going to do any type of activity here in Meridian is going to have an impact. So policy shouldn't necessarily be adjusted just on a whim or just say, yes, we agree. But we also need to consider that voting and having more frequent votes is probably the best answer instead of just coming up with solutions that are one-sided. There is a solution and we can work together, but we need to be able to take the full perspective if we're going to come up with something that everyone likes.
As mayor, I think you're put in a unique position from the get-go. You have 6 other policymakers who can very easily implement a policy that you don't agree with, and it's your responsibility to implement that policy. So if you're not willing to compromise from that perspective, then you probably shouldn't be running, because not every decision is your decision to make. As I mentioned earlier, the content about, I think that, if there's something that I disagree with, would I be willing to put it on the ballot box for the residents to decide? You bet. Because I think that if it's an issue that can be decided by the community in a community way, then let's ask them for what they think and what they want, so that we can do the same thing. We do live in a republic. It is not all about majority rules in every situation, but I think there are times when majority rules can be effective in terms of governing, in terms of how we look at things from our own personal perspective as well.
I think it's absolutely critical to know in a situation like that what you are dealing with regarding public opinion. Like Representative Palmer mentioned, are you dealing with a small interest group and it's 70% of them, or do you really have 70% of your citizenry? With something like that, I would absolutely, definitely, excuse me, agree with moving forward. If you know you've got 70% of your citizenry that is wanting something, it's crucial that we take a good, strong look at it, and does it meet the needs of the community as a whole, and then proceed accordingly.
All right, thank you. So we've gotten a ton of questions about downtown Meridian. Want to combine all of those sort of into one big question. Obviously, for years, city officials have been working to help downtown Meridian grow. This year, the Pacific Companies and Josh Everts, they broke ground on their new mixed-use building downtown. There's about 20 acres that's currently under the control of Union Pacific. That's near the railroad, and the Galena Opportunity Fund, a Boise-based developer, they're working to free up about 6 acres of that railroad land for redevelopment. So while all of this is just starting, the Urban Renewal District in downtown is set to expire in 2026, and downtown still lacks any solution to the increasing number of cars that need to park there for city business or downtown business. The question for you all is, what is your vision for downtown Meridian? And are there incentives or tax structures that you would need to see that vision through? let's start with Sean.
Thank you. I've been a champion of downtown Meridian and involved as an elected official and administrator. And I'm proud to see Meridian grow in our downtown. We've got some challenges, but we've got an opportunity to really create a place where business can be innovative, where we've got a walkable district where we can attract business and businesses can grow, and we really do have an opportunity. We need to solve the impending parking crisis. And I can tell you that early on, people said, a parking crisis in Meridian, that will never happen. Well, we are here today, and we need to solve that issue, or we're gonna have trouble getting people to work and to those businesses. We've also got some transportation improvement issues. We need to take Broadway and connect it to Locust Grove, and that will help our circulation downtown. And in terms of the expiration of the urban renewal district, on our northern border, we have 3 aging shopping centers, and we've got some vacant ground there. I believe that there's an opportunity to create a new revenue allocation area at that site to help redevelop those shopping centers and put in the needed transportation improvements, because the transportation at Meridian, Maine, Cherry, Fairview doesn't work today and won't work in the future.
Gina?
It's true, downtown Meridian is changing. But, you know, if we want to have it more than just a traffic corridor between commercial and residential commuters, we need to really consider what we're doing with downtown. The current proposed projects that are on the docket at the moment, I don't believe that we should give in to the demands of Meridian Station that was proposed. But at the same time, I believe Meridian Station is needed. If I was elected, I would halt the renewal of the proposed renewal for the district, for the urban renewal district. And I do that not with an easy mind, but in 2008, between 2008 and 2012, many businesses lost their businesses and their homes because of the recession. A recession is due. And one of the reasons that people lost their homes and their businesses was sometimes it was the property taxes. Yeah, the urban renewal district ends in 2026, but by renewing it, we're going to be freezing those property taxes. So what happens if a recession happens and businesses lose their business? They can't still be paying those high property taxes that they have already. Now, we could keep the urban renewal district and keep it renewed, but they would only do so much good if we don't consider the long-term impact that it will have on the businesses already there. Having parking structures, I think, is a better idea. Build up instead of build out. That way we can accommodate more and use the Ada County commuter buses as a way to get more people for events instead of just having people park. There's some other opportunities there, but you know, downtown, it's not going to be solved overnight. So we need to do something different and unique that is strictly to our downtown and not like other cities.
Thank you. Robert.
I'm excited for the future of our downtown. You know, we've got one project that is, I know they got the permits, and hopefully they are going to be turning dirt on getting that one up and going right away. I know a committee met this morning on another potential project. I have not yet heard how the results of that to see if that's going to be moving forward or not. But we've got some exciting things taking place in downtown, and then there's the things that have also been alluded to over on the railroad property. Exciting times here in our downtown, and we have been spoiled, and not in a good way, with the parking issue. You know, we don't pay for parking. People may have to walk a block or two, and I know that may be unusual in downtown Meridian, but we have not had a parking problem, but we're going to. And the city, we're as much as a fault in this as anybody else, and we're gonna have to be more innovative and find solutions. We currently are parking city vehicles on 5 different lots in downtown. More surface parking in downtown is not the answer. We will need a garage of some sort, but it's gonna need to be a public-private partnership, and I think that there's opportunities for that to exist, so that we can hopefully continue to free up the land that we either own or are leasing for other purposes, for other redevelopment opportunities in our downtown. One of the things I'd like to do, though, once elected, is get together with some of our major investors and business owners in downtown to find out what their plans are long-term in our downtown so we can have better coordination. We know Coal Valley has a vision in terms of what they would like around their school and the property and what they would like to do. We have 2 churches in downtown who have parking challenges as well as on the land. Do they want to stay? Do they want to go? We need to have those conversations so we have a good idea about what is going to occur. In addition, talk with our other businesses and find out who wants to stay in downtown and how they want to be there. We've got a great architectural firm downtown that's outgrown their current space. They're now leasing space in another building. What's their future? Let's get them together and have a conversation.
We've got great things happening in downtown. The company that's about to turn dirt, hopefully even today, as well as a new RFP that's been out and answered. So there are great things happening, but we've got to continue to collaborate and support because these are collaborative efforts, and downtown's not going to grow and thrive without everybody participating. We will have a parking problem eventually, but that's a good thing. But we need to be proactive and working on it now so that it isn't as impactful as it could be, because you've got to. Studies prove that if you're going to have a thriving downtown, you've got to be able to park and do 4 things, and that's shop, eat, have some form of entertainment, and a beverage, whether that's coffee or a cocktail. And so we've got to build that thriving downtown and include those public-private partnerships for that to continue to grow and thrive. We've got an opportunity zone that's fairly new to us where private investment can come in and take advantage of tax opportunities, so it reduces taxes on them. And we've got to really work together to promote those great things because we've got other great areas in this city. We've got to make sure that our downtown is one of those thriving, wonderful places to be.
I think I already answered this question a little while ago. Government needs to be careful about picking winners and losers. It's not what they should be doing. They should let business pick where they want to be and what they want to do and just stay out of their way and give them the opportunity to come to downtown and build. My business is downtown. I didn't need the government to come in and take care of my taxes. I didn't need the government to come in and take care of my parking. I supplied parking because I knew my customers would need it. The businesses can do what they need to do. We just need to give them the opportunity and get the regulations out of the way.
Our next question is also from the audience. How would you decrease police and fire response times? And we'll start with Gina for this one.
That's a great question. Well, yesterday we were talking about how we have firefighters for Station 6. Where's Station 6? Somewhere in the minds of hoping that we can get it built. Well, I think that we need to reduce response times by having developers work with a new, different way. We need to build something of a way to build up, and if developers want to build the subdivisions, they should be responsible for at least paying a good portion of stations and police substations, because it's a great investment. It saves the city money, and it gives us faster response time, and it shows the developer and the investors care about their community that they're about to build. But if they don't want to pay for those, they can build up. We don't have much land left, and if we were to annex anything, we need to be able to understand that the police and fire are not always going to be able to get to a place. So if we can't stop growth out, we need to stop going out and start building up. And that way, we give the freedom to developers and investors to help us control and reduce the time for police and fire, but at the same time, it gives us a whole lot better transparency and availability and options when it comes to financing those decisions.
So to me, there's 3 steps you can take if you want to improve response times. A, don't grow on your edges. The more you grow on the edges without the investment in services, well, the easier it will be for our police and fire to respond quickly. B, encourage infill. The more infill we have, the better it is for our community, because what infill can also bring is road improvements. And that's really the third thing. Having our police and fire respond on substandard roads that are bumper to bumper, especially during rush hour, that's going to impact your response times more than probably anything else. So if we can make road improvements, that would help. If we can also, as we grow, we need to keep up with our staffing. We hired 13 new police officers, or we put in the budget 13 new police officers this last year. We need to maintain our staffing levels in our police and fire departments and build new stations when warranted. Station 6 is going to be coming online later this year, so that will help with our response times in South Meridian. But that's really what we need to stay focused on. You have to have the people to respond. They have to have roads that they can drive on to get where they need to go. And if we don't build further out away from our core, it'll be easier and more fast for us to get to the people that need the help.
We've got to make sure that police and fire are as close to the people as possible. We are opening Station 6 in a few months, and with that, we need to start on Station 7 because we are already seeing slower response times, and we need to make sure that they're located because we already have the density out in areas where police and fire need to respond. We are looking at our first substation for the police so that they're closer to northwestern Meridian, which does take more than a typical response time to get there currently. And again, with the current station opening on Overland Road, that does give better response time for South Meridian, but that's only our second station in south of the freeway and our first one in 10 years. We've grown a lot in those 10 years. So we've got to go ahead and get started on that next station. It takes 3 to 5 years once you start even planning to get that station open. And at the rate we are growing, we're going to absolutely need to make sure the police and fire are close as possible to our citizens.
I don't know if that was a hypothetical question or if there is a real problem with it. I haven't personally seen a problem with it. I don't know of a problem with it. If there is a problem, you need to figure out what the problem is. And to figure out what the problem is, you need to go to those people that are dealing with it. So go to the police and to the fire. Are they too short on people? Are they too overworked? Are they too far apart? Is there a dispatch problem? Is there a problem because of transportation? You have to figure out exactly what the problem is. You can't just throw at it and give one answer and come up with it. You're going to have to go to the people, and none of us are the right people to do that. You need to have the police and the fire here to weigh in and tell you what the right way to do it is. I'm not a professional when it comes to either of their industries, and I would respect what they have to say and learn from them and then move forward with whatever the solution is.
I want to thank everybody here for coming today to listen to what we have to say, and for those that are watching at home, I'd like to welcome a couple special people here. Grandma Barbara, my Aunt Lena, my parents John and Cheryl, and my brother Jared are here in the audience, so thanks for being here today. Let's talk a little bit about response time. As a member of the city council, I had a firefighter come to me, very distraught, and he talked about a code that they had run on New Year's Eve. And he performed CPR on an infant for 8 minutes. 8 minutes. It took the paramedics 12 minutes to get there. And they lost that child. And that's an issue that I thought was important. So we said, how do we solve that issue? And Meridian sought innovation, and we found a way to make sure that we had a paramedic on every fire truck. And today our citizens are better served, and I know for a fact that that has saved lives. And I believe that we can be innovative in our approach and not just spend additional monies. We've got to look at what's happening with traffic. People running red lights, causing accidents. We can't put a police officer on every corner. I'd like to see that happen. We need to be innovative as we have in the past. We need to use technology, and we need to ask great questions to help reduce our response times.
Great. We have about 20 minutes left. left. So with limited time, I'm going to borrow a tactic used at the Democratic debates. Don't know if you guys have been watching. There's one tonight. This one's definitely the spicier of the two debates. But one of the things they've been doing is just asking a yes or no question. Raise your hands. So can you raise your hand if you support a local option sales tax? Okay, so we have Ann, and we got Robert Simpson. All right, so there you have it. I'm not going to ask you guys to elaborate on that. I'm just going to move on to the next question. So a working group of Idaho legislators has come together to find ways to alleviate the rising property taxes that Idahoans face. City spending makes up less than half of property taxes for most residents when you factor in school district levies, the county, Ada County Highway District, mosquito abatement districts. Yet many of this working group suggestions have focused on cutting city spending. For example, right now cities can increase their budget by a maximum of 3% each year and take an additional budget increase to factor in new construction. The working group has considered limiting the 3% annual budget increase or taking away cities' ability to factor in new construction to their budget. So the question for you all is, do you think that Meridian should be looking for ways to reduce property taxes for its citizens, and do you support the work of this legislative group? We can start with Robert.
So I'm not a fan of what I hear coming out of the working group, because what I hear coming out of the working group is growth should not pay for new city services. You know, when you start talking about new construction, not being able to factor that in, then you're talking about the need for services being paid by existing people in our community. If new businesses and new homes move to the area or build and come on the tax rolls, they need to help fund the services that we are extending to them for that purpose. As far as the 3%, you always got to be mindful of what that 3% should be or should not be for. I mean, the foregone is, I think, what they're really talking about. Can you go back and can one body at one point in time determine that the rest of them should never be able to go back and take that 3%? Quite frankly, I don't know if that's the right approach to government, where you have one group hamstringing a future group on what they can or cannot do. But that sometimes is how the legislative process works, and quite frankly, we as a city have had to learn to live within the confines of whatever restrictions the state places on cities, and we find ways to do it because I think we are innovative and we work together. But I also don't think that we're the problem child that most people are looking to solve.
That's a tough one because, again, we do deal on a regular basis with the constraints that were already provided through the legislature. And so I think that the best government is as close to the citizens as you can possibly be, and that's cities making their own decisions. So I would not just blanket support the work that the work group is doing.
Well, I'm a bit of a unique situation here, being a sitting legislator at the time. I've been on several working groups, and I can tell you the absolute worst thing to do is to comment on what a working group is talking about. They talk about all different kinds of things. That is a very open-ended question for me to make a statement on. I do support changing how property taxes are done. What the working group is doing, I'm not going to comment on because it changes hourly. It changes right while we're here. They're all talking on the phone to each other and saying, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? So in order to say, yes, I support them, or no, I don't support them, I can't say. I do support working on property taxes and changing the way it's done.
Property taxes are increasing every year. And we've got unnecessary spending. We've got to solve that issue. In 2018, the city of Meridian had $1.25 million in overtime. Overtime. Single employee with $42,000 in overtime. That's overspending. We've got to solve that issue. We can't continue to have these property taxes go up and up and up. With that said, the legislature talks about cities not doing their jobs and not allocating resources correctly. and then wants in the mix of telling them what funds they can have, I'm not sure that I agree with that.
I believe that working groups are the least heard. They're the people that we expect to hear from, but at the same time, politicians and developers and investors don't necessarily want to listen. Now, mind you, I am part of the working group myself, but I don't have control. The upper leaders, we don't necessarily feel that the upper leaders truly understand us, and that's one of the reasons I'm running. We need to consider how much the working group works to make our city run. We rely on a lot more people working at the lower ends of our income spectrum just so that everyone can benefit. The little guy has to be able to have a say at the table. If we don't even care about listening to what he thinks, we're not doing our job. And since I don't have experience, obviously I can't speak for those here, but if they're talking about certain things that they want to see happen and we're not listening, are they doing their job? We need to really consider how much people are interested in taking control, and if we're not going to consider solutions that they provide, we shouldn't be in office. And that is something I wish to change. So if the working group has something that they want to bring to the table, we need to listen, and not just listen, we need to consider, because maybe they are seeing something that none of us are seeing, and that is why I'm running.
All right, one more yes or no question. So the city owns the Lakeview Golf Course land in Meridian, and it's being leased out to an operator of that golf course. And we had a question from the audience. Do you support the city intervening to help improve Lakeview Golf Course? And can you just raise your hand if you do think that the city should help improve Lakeview Golf Course? Okay. Any takers? No? Okay.
Only with a microphone. Yeah.
All right, well, I think we've only got a few minutes left here, so we want to give each candidate a chance to give a closing statement and let us know why you feel like you are the best equipped to be Meridian's next mayor. So let's start at the end here again with Anne. Are you okay with that?
Sure.
Great.
Well, thank you everyone, first and foremost, for coming. It's been wonderful to be back with the chamber and see a lot of faces that have been around a while and meet a lot of new people. So thank you very much for being here today. And I really feel that I'm the best candidate to be mayor because of my extensive background that's has a variety to it. Having served on city council for 4 years, completing my first term, I feel like I've still got fresh eyes to look at our issues that we're dealing with. And along with being the CEO of the chamber for a number of years, the experience of working with our small businesses. And as the chamber CEO, I was able to serve as the president of the Idaho Chamber Alliance, and so work with chambers across the state. So I feel like I'd have a wonderful opportunity to represent the city, not only to the other cities in the Treasure Valley, but across the state as well. And I feel like one of my strongest skill sets is collaboration. And as you've heard, it's going to take a lot of collaboration to deal with the issues that we're currently facing. And I am the one to be able to bring all of those to the table and get those things done. And again, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. My oldest brother's 10 years older than me. And when I was getting ready to leave the basic training for the Army, he was in the military, he was a major at the time. And he came to me and he said, it's not about learning how to roll your socks. I'm like, what are you talking about? And he said, you're gonna go spend 12 weeks learning how to roll socks, hang t-shirts, and all these silly little things. He said, you need to know right now that's not what it's about. It's about learning to pay attention to detail, what's going on around you. That is what's important. what's going on around you and paying attention to detail. The details in everything matter. Words matter, details matter. I've spent time in the legislature, and I've learned the importance of listening to people. It's absolutely imperative that you listen to every single person that can come and talk to you. It's not easy, it takes a lot of time, but my door will be open to everyone. I want to hear what everyone has to say. I will spend every day possible sitting there listening to people so that I can understand the details of why there's a problem with the government and why they need help with their business or with their home or with their subdivision. It's all about the details. And the only thing I can promise is I'll make mistakes and I'll learn and I'll do my best.
Thanks. I've always dreamed of being the mayor of my hometown. Meridian, you've got some choices. And hopefully you got to ask some good questions today because we are different candidates. I'm the only one up here with executive leadership in a large organization. I've managed over 350 people and millions of dollars in revenue. That's important. It's important to have someone that understands and has executed the role of CEO. And I think that the job one for this mayor should be restoring a little faith to the public. We talked about people disengaging because they didn't feel that they were heard. Or that the elected officials were bought and sold. I would encourage you to check out your campaign disclosures at the city clerk's office. But the mayor needs to restore some of that faith in our community. And I'm concerned about a number of things. I'm concerned about growth. Many in our city have been paying for generations for roads and schools and fire stations. And someone moves in right next to us and pays exactly the same tax rate. I don't think that's paying your fair share. So I propose, if you move in from out of state, that you wait 3 years for your homeowner's exemption. I'm concerned about traffic. We need wider roads. We need intersection improvements. We've got to have that in our community, or we are going to sit in congestion until the next election. So Meridian, you've got some choices. I'm Sean Wardle, and I'm asking for your vote to be Meridian's next mayor.
So now that I've answered these questions, I know I may not have secured your vote, and that's perfectly fine with me. This is a game just like any other. The only difference is the stakes are a lot higher. You're entrusting one of us to lead this city. And you want to know what is different about me. What is unique? I'm human, I'm not perfect, and I do make mistakes. But you're not going to hear it from a majority of these people because they've already been in office. And for someone like me to come in out of nowhere and say, I'm running for mayor, you're probably thinking, what is she thinking? I'm asking myself the same question. And to be honest, I didn't want this job. Yeah, I didn't. I was called to serve. I answered that call. Now, I may look normal, talk normal, think normal, but just like judging a book by its cover, I'm not normal. We're all different, we're all unique. If everybody was the same, well, this would be a really interesting world, wouldn't it? So, I want to tell you a secret that many people don't know, and found out earlier, and I know Tammy does, but I may not look like it, but I have over 45 medical conditions. I've had 25 plus surgeries, and I am as closest as you can get to the little guy as possible. I wrote a book titled The Brain Game, Experiencing Blood Clots at age 22. I'm going to be releasing Volume 2 out because people need to hear it from me and my family. The mayor shouldn't be someone with experience. The mayor should be a little guy. And I'm here running without any staff volunteers or fundraising other than $25 to my own campaign to help. Not because I wanted those people, but because I know that if I'm going to rewrite the playbook from the beginning, the coach needs to rewrite the playbook before he or she becomes the coach. I hope I've secured your vote. Thank you.
I'd like to say that experience matters. And we are at a place in our community's growth and development where for the first time in 16 years, we will lose a full-time mayor and have someone else coming in and stepping in to do the work. It can't be on-the-job training at this point in time. I can step in from day one. I'm as close to working with Mayor Tammy as anybody in the history of the city. I know what the job is, I know what the job is not, I know what the functions of the job are. I've also worked with many of you in this room over the last dozen years. We've got to know each other, we've got to work on projects together. You know me as a person. This is something that doesn't change through time. We can't get up here and fool you into saying who we are or who we are not, because we all have records, we all have personalities. You know what those are about. So from that standpoint, I want to continue to provide premier services to the residents of Meridian. I want to work with our directors, who I know their strengths, I know their weaknesses. I want to work with our employees, who I know the values, the care values that they provide every single day to the residents of this community, and I want to remain focused on that. But at the same time, I'm not the same person as Mayor Tammy. She's been very good at providing a vision for our community, and I've helped develop that in terms of how do we do that into a strategic plan and move that forward. We're going to continue to do that, but I'm also a little bit more on the detail side. We're going to make those road improvements, but it's not just about roads. It's sidewalks that stop in the middle of nowhere. It's pathways that have not been connected. Those are the things that you need to hire a mayor to do here in this community. I think I have the experience and the relationships throughout the valley and throughout the state to help make effective change, bring forward new policies to the state legislature that will help the city grow and prosper through the future. And I too would ask for your vote.
Well, let's thank all of our candidates for being here. Thank you to you all for being here, and we hope to see you out voting on November 5th. Thank you.
Good job. You had to get that microphone a little closer. Where's the hair? Give us the hair.
Yep.
Memorial class.